Have you ever lain awake at night, staring into the shadowed corners of your room, wondering what it might feel like to grow old alone? The thought creeps in like a whisper, uninvited, unsettling, yet impossible to ignore. For so many, this isn't a question they ponder until the reality unfurls before them. Loved ones drift away to new chapters of their lives, friends fade into memory with the passing years, and the once bustling rhythm of daily existence slows to a quiet, almost imperceptible hum. Aging alone can feel like standing on the edge of a vast, empty expanse, one of life's most daunting challenges. But what if it didn't have to be a descent into misery? What if, with the right perspective and a handful of intentional habits, you could transform that solitude into something vibrant, meaningful, even beautiful? In this journey we're about to embark on together, we'll uncover 6 essential practices, daily rituals that don't just fill the hours, but weave a tapestry of mental clarity, physical vitality, emotional resilience, and genuine joy. These aren't mere tasks, they're lifelines to a richer existence, even when you're the only one walking the path. The line between loneliness and peaceful solitude is thinner than you might think, drawn by the small, deliberate choices you make each day. So, if you're ready to sidestep regret, banish isolation, and craft a life that's wholly your own, stay with me. These 6 habits might just redefine how you see aging and how you live it. Let's dive in. Number 1, establish a daily routine. Imagine waking to a morning draped in silence, the clock ticking aimlessly with no purpose to pull you from the sheets. Without a plan, the hours stretch into a shapeless blur, leaving you adrift, unmotivated, untethered, as if life itself has slipped beyond your grasp. As the years pile on and the familiar anchors of work, family, or social commitments loosen their hold, this aimlessness can creep in like fog, obscuring the vibrancy of each day. But here's a secret. A daily routine is your compass. It's not about chaining yourself to a rigid schedule or stuffing your hours with busy work. It's about crafting a rhythm that breathes purpose into your mornings, stability into your afternoons, and comfort into your evenings. A routine is the heartbeat of a life well lived, a gentle current that carries you forward when the waters feel still. Consider Robert, a 76-year-old retired engineer with a mop of silver hair and hands that once pieced together intricate machines. After his wife Ellen passed away, his world tilted. He'd wake at odd hours, the bedroom clock glowing 3 a.m. or noon with equal indifference. Breakfast became a forgotten ritual, replaced by endless cups of weak coffee, while the television droned in the background, a hollow companion. The days bled together, each one a gray echo of the last, and the loneliness settled into his bones like damp cold. "I felt like I was just waiting," he'd later confess, his voice soft with the weight of memory. But then something shifted. Tired of drifting, Robert scribbled a plan on a scrap of paper. Wake at 7 a.m., brew a proper pot of tea, lace up his worn sneakers for a walk around the block. He added small anchors, cooking a real lunch, dialing his daughter in the afternoon, reading a chapter of a dog-eared novel before bed. At first, it felt forced, like a child learning to ride a bike, wobbly and uncertain. But soon the structure took root. The walks brought the scent of dew-kissed grass and the chatter of birds. The meals filled his kitchen with the warm aroma of simmering soup. The calls rekindled laughter across miles. His mind sharpened, his heart steadied, and the days stopped slipping through his fingers. A routine doesn't demand grandeur. It thrives in simplicity, watering the potted geraniums on the windowsill at sunrise, sipping chamomile tea as dusk paints the sky, jotting thoughts in a leather-bound journal by lamplight. These acts weave a thread of normalcy through the fabric of your day, banishing the emptiness that looms when time lacks shape. If you feel the hours slipping away, start small. Sketch a morning ritual, a stretch to greet the sun, a playlist to lift your spirits, a moment to plan a meal. You're not just filling time, you're claiming it, building a life that hums with intention and quiet momentum. Number 2, prioritize physical movement. Picture this: a body once nimble and quick now hesitates at the edge of a chair, joints creaking like an old wooden floor. Too often as we age, we let stillness settle in, mistaking it for rest. The truth cuts deeper. Motion is life's elixir, a fountain of youth not in some mythical spring, but in the steady beat of your own steps. It's not about chasing the vigor of your 20s or sculpting a physique for admiration. It's about keeping your legs sturdy enough to climb the porch steps, your hands steady enough to pour a glass of water, your spirit bright enough to greet each dawn. When you stop moving, the losses pile up. Muscle fades, flexibility wanes, energy dims, until even the smallest tasks feel like mountains. But here's the promise. You don't need to conquer marathons or hoist barbells. Simple daily movement, a walk through the park, a stretch toward the ceiling, can flood your veins with vitality and keep your independence intact. Take Eleanor, a 78-year-old retired librarian with a penchant for dog-eared paperbacks and a voice that still carries the lilt of countless story hours. After retirement, her world shrank. The library's long shelves gave way to a recliner's embrace, her days spent flipping channels instead of pages. At first, the change was subtle, a stiffness in her knees, a twinge when she reached for a cup. But over time, bending to retrieve a dropped spoon or strolling to the mailbox left her breathless, her body betraying her with every step. "I thought it was just age," she'd say, her hazel eyes clouded with resignation. Then a friend coaxed her to a walking group. She started with tentative strides, the crunch of gravel underfoot mingling with the rustle of leaves overhead. Mornings brought gentle stretches, her arms tracing arcs in the cool air. Within weeks, the fog lifted. Her posture straightened, her steps quickened, and sleep came deeper, unbroken by restless tossing. She even caught herself humming again, a tune from some forgotten novel bubbling up unbidden. Movement isn't a luxury, it's a necessity, woven into your routine like breath itself. Even if mobility falters, there's a way. Chair exercises tracing patterns in the air, a slow shuffle across the living room, the rhythmic rise and fall of standing and sitting. Science backs the magic. Motion sharpens your mind, wards off dementia's shadow and soothes stress with every pulse of blood to your brain. Start where you stand, a 5-minute amble to the garden, a sway to a favorite song, a sweep of the broom across the floor. Consistency is the key. The more you move, the more your body remembers its strength, until one day you rise from your chair and realize you feel alive again. Number 3, stay socially engaged. Loneliness doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It seeps in quietly, a shadow lengthening across an empty room. As the years stretch on, the threads of connection can fray. Friends relocate to sunlit retirement towns. Family scatters to their own busy orbits, and the phone sits silent, a relic of livelier days. Isolation isn't just a feeling, it's a thief, robbing health as surely as smoking or excess weight, dimming the mind and weighing the heart. Yet here's the lifeline. You don't have to surrender to it. Staying socially engaged, it isn't about filling your calendar with grand gatherings. It's about the small, warm sparks of human contact that remind you you're not adrift in the universe alone. Meet Frank, an 80-year-old widower with a shock of white hair and a laugh that once filled rooms. After his wife Clara slipped away, his house grew too still. The television flickered endlessly, a poor substitute for her voice, and he waited for calls that rarely came. "They're busy," he'd mutter, excusing his kids' packed lives, his friends' fading presence. The solitude thickened, and even fetching the mail felt like a chore too heavy to bear. Then, one crisp autumn day, he dialed an old buddy, fingers trembling, voice rusty from disuse. The call stretched into an hour, memories unspooling like film reels. Emboldened, he joined a senior group, trading stories over lukewarm coffee, and later found an online chess club, his night leaping across digital squares. Slowly, the world cracked open again. Laughter returned, his step lightened, and he felt woven back into life's fabric. You don't need a crowd, a single thread of connection can hold you steady. A wave to the neighbor pruning roses, a text to a distant cousin, a chat with the grocer about the ripest apples. These moments ripple outward, softening solitude's edges. Technology bridges gaps once unspannable. Video calls paint faces across miles. Forums hum with shared passions. Frank's chess moves weren't just strategy, they were lifelines to strangers who became friends. Reach out even when it feels awkward. The first step is the hardest, but each one after builds a network, not just of people, but of purpose, proving that loneliness isn't your fate unless you let it be. Number 4, keep your mind stimulated. What if your mind, that vast landscape of memory and wonder, began to fade? Not with a dramatic crash, but a slow, creeping blur? Too many assume it's inevitable, that age dims the intellect like a lamp running low on oil. But your brain isn't a relic to be shelved. It's a living, hungry thing, craving challenge as much as your body craves motion. Let it idle and the edges soften, names slip, details blur, curiosity wanes. Yet the power to keep it sharp lies within your reach, not in daunting feats, but in the quiet thrill of daily engagement. Stimulation isn't about mastering calculus overnight. It's about coaxing your thoughts to dance through a book's winding prose, a puzzle's stubborn grid, or a conversation that sparks new horizons. Take Janet, a 74-year-old former teacher with a cascade of gray curls and a mind once quick as a whip. Retirement traded her chalkboard for a recliner, her days dissolving into the hum of game shows and reruns. At first, she brushed off the lapses, keys misplaced, grocery lists forgotten, as quirks of age. But the fog thickened, and worry gnawed at her. I used to recite poetry by heart, she'd lament, tracing the worn armrest. Then, a flicker of resolve. She dusted off a novel, its pages crisp with promise, and tackled a crossword each dawn, pencil scratching against newsprint. She enrolled in an online Spanish class, stumbling over gracias until it rolled off her tongue. Weeks later, her eyes gleamed. She tracked plots with ease, bantered with neighbors in broken phrases, and felt the old sharpness return, a blade honed by use. Your brain thrives on novelty. Pluck a guitar string for the first time, sketch a crooked tree, unravel a riddle. Studies whisper truths. Such play staves off dementia's creep, forging neural paths like trails through a forest. It's not just about staving off decline. It's about savoring the spark of discovery, the quiet pride of a solved problem. Boredom flees when your mind wrestles with a new skill, and depression retreats before the glow of progress. If the days feel stale, nudge your routine. Swap TV for a podcast, trade silence for a journal's ink. Janet's Spanish wasn't perfect, but each word was a victory, a testament that age can't steal your capacity to grow. Number 5, practice gratitude and reflection. Pause for a moment, close your eyes, and feel the weight of what's gone. Friends lost to time, youth's fleeting strength, the echo of laughter that once filled your home. As the years stack up, it's easy to gaze backward, tallying losses until they tower over the present. But what if you turned your lens to what remains, the sun's warmth on your skin, a stranger's fleeting smile, the steady beat of your own heart? Gratitude isn't a denial of pain. It's a quiet rebellion against despair, a choice to cradle the good amid the hard. Pair it with reflection, and you've forged a daily ritual that anchors you, softening solitude into peace. Consider George, a 79-year-old retired firefighter with weathered hands and a voice roughened by decades of smoke and stories. After his wife Marie passed, the house turned hollow, her garden untended, her chair empty at the table. Grief pinned him to the past, each memory a shard of glass. "What's the point?" he'd mutter, staring at the ceiling through sleepless nights. Then a counselor's nudge, a journal, 3 lines a day. At first, the pen faltered. Gratitude felt foreign, forced. But he wrote, the grandkids' giggles over the phone, the bitter bite of fresh coffee, a cardinal's flash against the snow. Reflection followed. 10 minutes on the porch, breathing the crisp air, sifting through the day's quiet moments. Slowly, the lens shifted. He still ached for Marie, but the ache softened, cradled by what endured. Sleep returned, stress ebbed, and a fragile joy took root. Science nods in agreement. Gratitude lifts mood, eases anxiety, even steadies blood pressure, a balm as potent as medicine. Reflection carves space for clarity, whether through meditation's calm breath or a prayer's whispered hope. Start small, Name 3 gifts each dusk: a meal's savor, a song's lift, a memory that warms. George's cardinal wasn't much, but it was enough to tilt his world toward light. Life's storms won't cease, but this habit builds a shelter, proving that even alone, you're surrounded by fragments of grace worth holding. Number 6, find a way to help others. Loneliness can feel like a locked door, trapping you in a room of your own making. The instinct is to turn inward, to nurse your solitude like a wound. But what if the key lies outside yourself, in the act of reaching for another? Helping others isn't just a noble distraction. It's a lifeline, threading purpose through your days and stitching you back into the world. It doesn't demand heroics. A shared smile, a listening ear, a small kindness can ripple outward, warming you as much as it does them. Giving reminds you of your worth, a quiet echo that you still matter, even when the seats at your table sit empty. Meet Margaret, an 82-year-old former nurse with a wiry frame and eyes that still spark with care. Retirement stripped her of the hospital's bustle. Her kids built lives far away, and her circle shrank to a handful of Christmas cards. "I felt invisible," she'd admit, her voice trembling. Days stretched long and hollow until she stepped into a food bank, apron tied, hand sorting cans. At first it was duty, a way to fill the clock. But soon the chatter of volunteers, the gratitude in a stranger's nod, the rhythm of shared work woke something dormant. She befriended a young mother, swapped recipes with an old widower, and found herself humming as she locked up. Purpose bloomed anew. She wasn't just passing time, she was shaping it. Her kindness a bridge back to belonging. You don't need a grand stage. Write a letter to a friend, tutor a child online, leave cookies for a neighbor. These acts weave connection, lifting your spirit as they lighten another's load. Margaret's hands, once steady with IVs, now steadied her own heart. Even frail, you can give a word of wisdom, a prayer over the phone. The magic lies in the shift, from dwelling to doing, from isolation to impact. Each gesture whispers back, you're still here, still vital, still needed. Final thoughts, step back now and let these 6 threads settle into your mind. Routine's steady pulse, movement's quiet strength, connection's warm embrace, stimulation's bright spark, gratitude's gentle lens, service's selfless glow. Aging alone isn't a sentence to loneliness, it's a canvas, vast and waiting. These habits aren't cures for life's inevitable shifts. Loved ones will still drift, silence will still fall, but they're tools to paint your days with meaning. You can't halt time's march, but you can choose your steps within it, crafting a solitude that's not barren, but rich, not isolating, but freeing. Picture Robert's morning tea steaming in the sun, Eleanor's strides crunching autumn leaves, Frank's chessboard alive with strategy, Janet's Spanish lilting through the air, George's journal tracing life's small wonders, Margaret's hands busy with care. These aren't tales of escape, they're proofs of resilience, lives reclaimed through daily choice. Which of these can you weave into your tomorrow? A walk, a call, a grateful pause. Start small, the ripple will grow. You still hold so much. Wisdom to share, beauty to savor, days to shape. Alone doesn't mean lonely, not if you hold these habits close. They're your invitation to a life not just endured, but cherished.